In the aftermath of Donald Trump's fourth indictment this year, the majority of Americans seem to believe two things. Number one, he should be prosecuted for his crimes, and number two, they will not support him in 2024. But before we unpack all that, if you haven't yet, please hit that like, subscribe, and the alert bell. Maybe check out my Patreon. I'd appreciate the support. All right, folks, so this is, it's good news, right? For those of us on the left, it's good news for those of us who are sane in this country. Quite frankly, this is good news for the never-Trump Republicans and conservatives who, even though we legitimately disagree, they want to reclaim their party from the fascistic cult of personality it has become. This is good news for all of us, right? It's also kind of sobering news in a way, right? But let's unpack it, okay? So a couple of polls indicate, and I'm actually going to start with this one. No, I'm going to start with this one. So the majority of Americans, according to, I think it's a Quinnipiac poll, which I believe is like relatively conservative. It's highly reputable, but relatively conservative. A majority of Americans think that Trump should be prosecuted on charges linked to the 2020 election. So a majority of Americans say that Donald Trump should be prosecuted on federal criminal charges related to his efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 election, according to a survey published Wednesday. The National Quinnipiac University poll showed 50% of Americans said that Trump should face federal criminal charges, while 42% said he should not be prosecuted for those alleged crimes, right? It's nice to see that nice, healthy purple bar. It's a bit ahead of the bar below it. Before we dive into that, let's go to the other major poll, which asks a slightly different question, which is about support, right? Because believe it or not, there probably are Americans who are like, yeah, he probably should be prosecuted for trying to steal the election illegally from Joe Biden. Very anti-democratic, very authoritarian. But I'll still support him anyway if it's a choice between him and Joe Biden. There is that cognitive dissonance which is rife in the Republican Party. We've actually heard sitting Republican politicians and governors, senators, congresspeople who are like, man, I don't like Trump, but he's got my vote if he gets the Republican nominee or nomination. Like that's the dissonance which plagues this party. So after every new indictment, this is from the Associated Press, Donald Trump has boasted that his standing among Republicans only improves. And he has a point. Nearly 2/3, 63%, now they say they want Donald Trump to run again, according to new polling from the Associated Press, Nork Center for Public Affairs Research. That's up slightly from the 55% who said the same in April when Trump began facing a series of criminal charges. Because I think that was right after or the Alvin Bragg Manhattan indictments for the campaign finance violations, the Stormy Daniels porn star hush money situation. 7 in 10 Republicans now have a favorable opinion of Trump, an uptick from the 60% who did 2 months ago. And again, just how ridiculous is that, right? So like just the intrinsic contrarian nature of the modern Republican voter, it's so irrational. Like, again, I get if you feel that he is like, it's just so insane. Like the more you indict this person, the more I want to support. Shouldn't you evaluate the facts? Like, shouldn't you evaluate them independently and decide whether or not you think it's deserved? It's almost just like an impulse, though. If you punish this person or if you attempt to hold this person accountable, that's only going to make me want to let them not be held accountable. It's bizarre. But in a crucial warning sign for the former president and his supporters, Trump faces glaring vulnerabilities heading into a general election. It's important. The primary election does not determine who sits in the White House, who sits behind the Resolute desk in the Oval Office. That's the outcome of a general election, where it's generally better to be more popular, which of course Trump never is. But with many Americans strongly dug in against him, while most Republicans, 74%, say they would support him in November 2024, 53% of Americans say they would definitely not support him if he's the nominee, and another 11% say they would probably not support him in November 2024. So let's look at this. Over half the country, and again, this is one poll, things could change between now and then, but just based on this one poll, more than half the country, 53%, say definitely not, no chance, I will not support him. Now, people's minds may change, but if that polling holds, he's already at a disadvantage. It's not unfeasible for him to win the presidency because he didn't win the popular vote against Hillary Clinton in 2016. So it's possible, but the odds are against him. It's no longer a coin flip, so to speak. But then you tack on that additional 11% who say probably not. That's still not looking good because now you're at 64% who are between definitely not and probably not, right? So that's sobering. So right now in the short term, he can say, oh, I'm definitely going to be the Republican nominee if this keeps up, and he definitely will. But being the Republican nominee doesn't guarantee you the White House. You have to be the Democratic nominee in the election. Now, so 64% of the American public in general saying definitely not or probably not, that's not good. But I also want to go back to that first poll, which is about, how many Americans think that he should be prosecuted for crimes? 54%, right? Again, a majority, and only 42%, a distinct minority, say that he should not be prosecuted. So there's probably some, it looks like there's, a small percentage that think that, I guess, are agnostic on the issue. But the point is this. Those numbers should be bigger, right? Based on the compelling indictments, it should be the case, in my opinion, that it should be like 60, 70% of Americans believe that Trump should be prosecuted for his crimes. That not just 53% are strongly opposed to him in 2024, but 63%, 73%. The thing is, this is good news for, again, those of us who are sane, those of us on the left, those of us who are never Trump Republicans who, again, want to make something out of the GOP that isn't a weird cult of personality. But those numbers are still kind of sad, aren't they? Like, I don't know. It's so fascinating to me how Donald Trump is graded, and the Republican Party in general. They're graded on a curve in this country, folks. They really are. I mean, I don't know. We have no way of knowing this, and perhaps, and hopefully we'll never find out, because hopefully this will not, Joe Biden or a Democrat would never do anything to merit the prosecutions that Donald Trump has merited. But it makes you wonder, if it were a Democratic politician facing similar charges who acted as brazenly and as corruptly as Donald Trump did. So basically, imagine Barack Obama or Joe Biden or whoever, Hillary Clinton. Let's use Hillary Clinton because it seems to be like she was always considered the least liked. She and Donald Trump are the least liked, the least popular political candidates in the history of this country. Let's use Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden, one of the two. If they were facing this, if they were facing the same circumstances, if the evidence was as strong against them for the same crimes as Donald Trump committed, I bet that number would be higher. Because again, based on what I've seen, as we've discussed in countless videos, it seems to me that the Republican Party is graded on a curve. If you take a Republican politician or a conservative figure and you put them up against a Democratic politician or a liberal/progressive figure, and you give them the same baggage, it seems like for whatever reason, we just grade the guy on the right on a curve. The guy or gal on the right. It's just so bizarre. We have got to do our part, every single one of us, you and me, and all of us in between, to fight back against that. Be like, no. We can't be doing that, and we should really encourage that in the face of such credible evidence against a political candidate like Donald Trump, these percentages, while good because we need just the majority, it should be more of a majority than what it is. Anyway, so I think this is a mixed bag. Generally speaking, good news for those of us who are sane, but still it's kind of disappointing that the majorities are that slim.